Hello and welcome, my dear students and my viewers, to my channel Mathematics Made Easy. Today, I, Ms. Ruchika, have a very important video for all the students of mine who are going to give Module 8 Relations and Function Grade 9 exams in the coming few days. So this is a revision guide for today and it's a part 1 of the video, very important, must watch. So watch it till the end and solve all the important questions, and let's get started with the video now. Hello and welcome, my dear students, to my session for grade 9 who are going to currently give their exam very soon. This is the math revision of module 8. This video is going to be part 1 and today we are going to cover the module 8 relations and function. This session is going to be a must-watch video for all my grade 9 students who are going to give their exams very soon, as it has all the important questions from the revision handout that we discuss. So without waiting more further, let's dive into the video. Okay, let's solve this first question. It's a multiple choice question. There are 4 options A, B, C, D. You need to choose the correct one. So you need to find for this question the domain of the function whose graph is given to you here. So as you see from the graph, it's a U-shaped parabola. So let's find its domain. I want you to recall here what is domain. Domain is simply like the input for the function. And for this function whose graph is given to you, the domain, you can find it by looking at the x-axis and the x values. So here is the horizontal x-axis that you have. Let's see, these are the 2 points where this graph touches the x-axis. But if I ask you what is the maximum and the minimum value that this function is taking, we cannot definitely predict that because you have here arrows telling you that this parabola is going up and up. Similarly, this side, on the left, on the right, both sides it is going to be going up and up. So it's like it doesn't have a well-defined maximum value, right? Now because we want to predict for the domain, we want to find the domain of this function. If you look at the x points, then this graph can go beyond. It can go to any big value for x. Similarly, on the left, if you see, it can take any negative value. Okay, so therefore for this question the domain would be C, which is minus infinity to infinity, as we cannot predict any final maximum value for this function. The graph is going is taking all the values on the left. It can go to any value on the negative infinity side, and here it can get bigger and bigger and take any value. Now this was domain. Now even though in the question the range is not asked, let's do for that also, so that I see sometimes students getting confused between domain and range. So range now is the output of the function, and you get the output or you get the range by looking at the y-axis or the y values. Now for y-axis, let's see. This is again the U-shaped curve, and definitely this graph has a minimum value at this point. So minus 6 is the y value which it is taking as a minimum. Let's talk about maximum now. Maximum y value. Does it have a maximum y value? Think about it. Even though it does have a minimum minimum y value, it does not have maximum. Again, by the same concept, because both sides it is extending. It is going up and up and becoming bigger and bigger. So it does not have a well defined maximum y value. Now we are talking about y value. So here in this case, even though it has a minimum which is -6, it does not have a maximum value. So maximum can be anything. So we'll keep it open from infinity and we'll close it from -6. Why I'm closing the bracket? Because this point is a part of the parabola. At this point, the graph is taking x value as some value between, if you just try to find that value, it is between -4 to -6, and here it has an exact y value of -6. So because the graph is attaining that value, it can be equal also, so we are making it a closed bracket. So that's the difference between domain and range. We have answered more than what the question was asking, and I hope now you know the difference between domain and range and that you will not get confused when you get a question like this in your exam. Okay, so this is quite an important question and it's a word problem. So we are going to read it together and we are going to highlight important information before we can choose what is the answer out of the options. So Salvatore is a plumber. He charges $1,000 for the work that is completed in less than 2 hours. He then charges $250 for the work that requires 2 to 5 hours. So depending upon the time that is being taken by this plumber to complete the work, he is charging a specific money amount. For a time which is between 5 to 8 hours, the plumber is charging $400. So let's write how this function would be defined, and then for this function we will define what is the domain. So the question is asking you, let's read furthermore, which function best defines the domain that models Salvatore's price scale. So I'm defining a function fx here. This function is the function which is modeling his price scale. So how is this function defined? Let's write. There are parts to this question. There are parts to this question. One is it is less than 2 hours. So let's define x to be the variable here, which is denoting time. X is the variable that denotes the hours, or it is actually denoting the time. The unit is hours. Okay. So if x is less than 2 hours, now time cannot be negative. So x will begin from positive 0, x more than 0 to 2. So less than 2 hours, so I will not include equal to here. Let's take the next value where x is lying. X is lying, the time is lying between 2 to 5 hours. Now here I did not take the equality. So that means this time I need to take equal, so 2 to 5. Next, he charges $400 for a work that takes between 5 to 8. Now, if I'm not including equal to here, then I'll include 5 here, equal to, and the maximum is 8 hours, so less than 8. This is the three parts. Now, for the first part, the cost is $100. For the second part, the cost is $250, and for the last part the cost is $400. So this is now a well-defined function fx, which is modeling his price range. So depending upon the different values of time, different values of x, your price depends. Okay, now because we only need in this question domain, that means we are going to only take the x value. So my answer will come from this part. I'm just taking it here together. So let's count the whole domain now. So domain is input, which is the set of all x here. X is denoting our time, such that x is lying between what values? Let's see, these are continuous intervals. It starts from 0 to 2, then 2 to 5, then 5 to 8. It doesn't have a break. So I can write it in this way together if I club. So I start from x more than 0 and I go till x, I can include 8 here also, so less than equal to 8. So if the time is between 0 from the beginning, I mean not 0, more than 0 till the maximum, which is 8 hours. So this is going to be the domain. So now you can easily select which is your answer. So answer is B. Now just to confuse you, they have given you options where they have put range in place of domain, or they have put discrete values like this and this option. So these are not going to be correct because here the time or the x variable is a continuous interval. So all these options cancel out. Okay, so let's solve this question now. Here you are given a table of values, as you can see. So the first row is representing the weeks that have passed by. So let's take variable x to denote this and variable y to denote this. Okay, so the table shows the amount of money that Tia owed her friend over time after borrowing the money to go to a theme park. So in week 0, when she started borrowing the money from her friend for going for the theme park, she borrowed an amount of $80. After that, after 1 week passed, in week 1, she borrowed another amount, which is $68. In week 2, she borrowed $52. And if you see here, there's a printing mistake in the boxes. So I'm going to just highlight them one by one now with circling them. So week 0, this is amount $80. Week 1, $68. Week 2, she borrowed $52. Week 3, she borrowed $39. Week 4, she borrowed $21. Week 5, she borrowed $10. And week 6, finally, she didn't borrow anything, so it's $0. Now, looking at this table of values, which represent x and y, the week and the amount respectively, you have to find the coordinates of the x-intercept and the coordinates of the y-intercept. That's the first part. So let's do it one by one. X-intercept, as you all know, how do you find? You put the other variable 0. So y equal to 0. So let's come to the amount. When is the amount 0? So amount is $0 in week 6. So therefore the x-intercept will be 6. That's how you find it. Let's do next one, y-intercept. And this you find by taking the value at which the other variable x is 0. So x is 0 means it is week 0. So what is that y-intercept? It's representing $80. So that's the part 1 of the question. Now in second part it is asking what is the meaning of the intercepts in the context of this situation. So let's now interpret. Do the second part of the question. This all what we have done till now is part 1 of the problem. Now we are heading to part 2 where we have to interpret. And we are doing this interpretation and writing the meaning of the intercepts in context of this word problem. So what does it say? If y is 0 means the amount is 0. So the amount that she has borrowed. So I will write here amount. So amount means the money that Tia borrowed or owned her friend. It becomes that amount becomes 0. She gets rid of that money that she has borrowed, and that is happening in week 6. So this situation can be interpreted using the x-intercept by saying that this girl Tia is going to finish off returning her money to her friend that she borrowed in week 6. So that's the interpretation for x-intercepts. Let's interpret the y-intercept. So y-intercept means x is 0. So in week 0, when she started borrowing initially, how much amount she borrowed? The y-intercept, which is $80. So in the beginning, when your week is 0, or Tia just started borrowing the money, she borrowed how much amount? She borrowed $80. So this is in the beginning. This is the amount of money she borrowed from her friend. So that's the interpretation, and the interpretation will definitely change as per the word problem. So my suggestion to all my students giving their exams in the coming few days would be to read the word problem well and to highlight important information. Now we are heading to another question. This question is uh, based on the concept of relative maximum, relative minimum, or neither of the two. So there are some x values which are given to you. Let's write these x values one by one. So one value is -5. I'm going to write them separated with some space so that we could also write their interpretation next to them. So we are given 1, 2, 3. Then another point is x equal to 0. Another point is x equal to 1 and x equal to 5. Now you're also given the graph in this question. So we are going to use this graph for completing the solution. What we need to do here, let's interpret, let's understand. So you need to determine out of these 6 points, these 6 x values which are given to you, which one is a relative maxima, which one is a relative minima, and which one is neither relative maxima nor relative minima. So let's go to these points on the graph one by one and then discuss. So x equal to -5 means it is somewhere in between. So in between -4, -6, if I go up, this is the point on the graph. So it's quite clear that x equal to -5 is a point of relative maxima. And why I say that, because near to this point on the left and on the right, first of all, the graph increases, then decreases. Second reason is that the y value at this point, corresponding to x equal to -5 on the graph, this y value is higher than the corresponding values near it. So definitely it's a relative maxima and it has higher y value as compared to its neighbors. So all the points which are around it, the y value is still lesser. Okay, so it's just relative, so we are just comparing. Next is x equal to -4. So I'm going on the x-axis now to this point, and corresponding y value is this point. So if you see, the graph is going from this point. After it touches -5, it goes down, it goes on decreasing, and it decreases till this point. So at this point specifically, nothing exceptional is happening. The graph is continue to go down, down and down till it reaches this point, x equal to -2. Now at this point, x equal to -2, again the graph is changing direction. So if you look at -4, the graph is just keep on decreasing. There is no change as such. And if you look at the y value corresponding, approximately it is 4 here. So which is quite lesser than this. So as such, at -4, we cannot very clearly say that it is relative maxima or relative minima. So we could easily put it in the category neither relative maxima nor relative minima. There's no change of direction happening and the graph continues to decrease at that point. That's the reason why we say that. Now come to -2. So x -2, y is this value. It's comparatively a lower value. And if you see at -2 x value, the graph is changing direction. It's going from decreasing to increasing. So this can be a relative point of relative minima due to that reason, and here the y value is correspondingly lower than the surrounding neighbors. Next we move to the point after -2, the graph continues to increase, and at 0, if you see, it comes back to the origin. X is 0, y is 0, and then it starts increasing again. So again, for x equal to -2, we cannot very clearly say whether it is a point of relative maxima or a point of relative minima. The graph is not changing direction as such, and it is continuing to have the same direction. So again, x equal to -2 is a point of neither relative maxima nor relative minima. Now I hope you all can guess for these two remaining points. So for x equal to 1, it's a point of relative maxima. The graph is increasing. And for x equal to -5, it is relative minima. So this is how you solve a problem, and using the graph you check whether the points given are of which category. Okay, the next question is on comparison. Here you need to compare the key features. Now this question doesn't really mention which key features you need to find, so we'll find quite a few of them. And because for gx you're already given 1, 2 and 3 features, so we are going to compare them using the 3 features for fx also. So the first function which is given is fx, the second function which is given is gx. For gx you are given a verbal description already of its features, so nothing more you need to do here. The slope is given, the x-intercept, the y-intercept, so we are going to do the same thing for this function. Now I'm going to compare this fx with y equal to mx plus b, or the slope intercept form. Now if I'm going to compare this equation of fx given, then m is going to be the coefficient of x here, so it's a negative slope. And if I compare the y-intercept of b, it is going to be 4 here. Okay, now I'm going to just change color and highlight. The y-intercept in this case is 4, whereas the y-intercept in case of gx is this. So y-intercept is higher in this. You may write the point also 0, 4. Now the only thing that remains to compare here, apart from slope, apart from the y-intercept, is the x-intercept for fx. Let's do also for x-intercept, y will be 0. So you put fx as 0 in negative 2x plus 4. Just put that and calculate your x. So I'm going to move this 4 on the other side, divide with 2. Now negative and negative becomes positive, so the x-intercept here in this question comes up with this, which will happen at the point 2, 0. So you have compared all the three things: x-intercept, y-intercept and slope for the both functions. Okay, now this is an important question. I'm going to put my star mark here to let you know of that. Similar questions can come for your exam. Now look at the question carefully. Here the graph is given to you. There is some important information given, so we are going to highlight that, and then let's see what else do we need. So Sophia is sketching the graph of a function. She's already sketched. This is how the graph looks. And she knows that when x is going to infinity, y is going to negative infinity. So a part of the end behavior. So x goes to infinity means this side. So on the right side, end behavior is already given to you. So I'm going to write end behavior. The part which is given is that when x goes to plus infinity, y goes to minus infinity. And if you see on the right, that is quite true. When x is going to plus infinity on the right side, the graph is coming down. So down means negative infinity. Now let's look at the end behavior on the left. It's quite evident that so I'm just putting a left here so that you remember the directions. As x goes to minus infinity means on the negative side of the x-axis, the graph is going up. Up means positive infinity. So y goes to plus infinity. So this is the end behavior on the left. You can write it in a different way also by saying that as x decreases because we are moving left on the negative side, y is increasing because it is going up. Okay. Another thing which is given to you in the question, which we are now going to highlight, is that the y-intercept, the graph meets the y-axis at this point, which is 0, 8. Now, which other feature fits the sketch of the graph? So you are given A, B, C, D, 4 options. We are going to match them and let's see which one is true here. So we have already got our end behavior at the left, which says that as x is going on the negative side, negative infinity, y is going to plus infinity. So this is definitely not true. We are going to cross it. It cannot be an answer. Next talks about x-intercept. So let's go back to the question. And if you see x-intercept, the graph is meeting approximately at this point, which is a little more than 16. And in fact, because the scale here, this point is 8, this is 16. So the difference of one square is 8 units. So the next one will be 24. And here you are given x-intercept at a negative point on this side, which is not true. The graph is not touching the negative side. So this is again not true. Cross. Next, it says that in the interval 8 to 16, so positive side, let's come on this. This is 0.8, this is 16. In this interval, it says the graph increases for y. However, from 8 to 6, you can see it going down, down and down. So again, increase is not true. So this is not true as well. Last point, in the interval negative 16 to 16. So from here till here. So beginning from this part of the graph, I'm going to this point where x is negative 16 and I'm going to go down, down and down till I reach 16. So what is the nature of the graph? It's going from this point to this point. So it's definitely decreasing. So it's given decreases for y, which is quite evident from the question. So yes, this is the correct answer. So this is how, looking at the options, I didn't do anything specific for this question. We just observed the graph nicely. And looking at the options which were given in the question itself, we got the correct answer. So use this trick to save time. Without solving much, we got our answer just by reasoning out from the information given in the question itself. So that's a good trick to use for saving time and completing your exam on time. Next question is about problem. So again, we are going to read it nicely and then highlight the information to choose our correct answer. A guidance counselor tells Rebecca that she needs a combined score of how much? Of at least 12 10 on two portions of her college entrance exam. So this girl is going to apply um, for her university, for her college, and she is going to be eligible to get an admission into this college only if she gets at least 1200. At least means this is a minimum criteria. She needs to have minimum this score in two portions. That's important. So what are these two portions? Let's see. X here is representing her score, the score of this girl Rebecca on the verbal portion, and Y is representing her score on the math portion. So there are two criteria for admission. Let's write X and Y, and the combined score is important. So if I'm looking at combined uh, score, then definitely combined means addition. So we are looking at X plus Y. Now I'm going to just change the color here. So this score is very, very important for her admission into the college. X is here representing her score in the verbal portion of the exam, and then Y is representing her score in the math portion. So maybe there are two sections to the exam that she is giving. Now choose the inequality or the equation here which will represent the scores that Rebecca needs for eligibility. Now it's quite clearly mentioned that in order to qualify to get admission into this college, she needs a minimum of 1200 on the two portions. So her combined score X plus Y, the minimum criteria is 1200. So could you think and tell me? Equal to doesn't really qualify. That's a minimum, so she definitely needs more than 1200. So this option is ruled out. Next is she needs at least 1200. Okay, so if for example she gets uh, a score of say 1000 in one, then she needs a minimum of 210 in the other one. It can be higher, but at least that's a minimum. So even if she gets like equal to the score, it would still make her eligible. So can we say that X plus Y has to be greater than or equal to 1200? And why I say this? Because this score is a minimum qualification, a minimum eligibility for her to get admission. Answer is A. Okay, now let's solve this another question. This is from the lesson that we had done on transformations of exponential functions. So the transformation can be any of the following. It can be a translation, it can be a reflection, or it can be a dilation. So there are three examples given to you in this question, 1, 2, 3, and we just have to categorize which one out of them is a dilation, translation, and reflection accordingly. So let's see what is our parent function here. So parent function is just like the original function. Here it is x square. It's a quadratic function. So definitely the graph is going to be a parabola. It will be a U-shaped curve. You can also try to see the graph will come out to be a parabola. You can draw the graph if you want, but here this question doesn't want the graph. It just wants you to identify and match which one is which transformation out of this. Okay, so if you look at the first one, there is a negative sign. Only the sign is changed. So from fx and gx, if we try to write the relationship, this comes out as negative effect. So first we are just um, writing what is the relationship between the parent function and the function gx, hx, and jx given here. Okay, then you look at this one. So this is like a multiplied to x, and then you are squaring the whole function where your a is definitely 3, and here this is just a negative sign multiplied for fx. Okay, so you could write this function as a times f of x whole square. That's the function here. Then for the third one, jx, this is compared to x minus h. And again, we are taking whole square, so we can compare it with this, and accordingly, your h value is going to be 4 here. Okay, so which is positive. So now let's change color and classify them. So the first part that you have got here, the first kind of transformation that you have got in this question is reflection, where you have the negative sign and the graph of fx is nothing but the reflection of the graph of uh, the graph of gx is nothing but the reflection of graph of fx, which was the parent function. And because it is a negative sign here, this negative sign, so this is going to be reflected across x-axis. So that's how we say for the first kind of transformation. So reflection is done. Let's come to the second one, hx. Here this is definitely the case of a dilation. So in dilation, let's recall again, we have done two types of categories. One in which you will have um, the new figure that you have will become bigger than the original one, so it is going to expand, and the other one in which it is going to dilate. So here your value of a is 3, which is more than 1. So if the absolute value here is more, then accordingly we can say that the graph is going to be stretched vertically in this question. Okay, so that's dilation. Next is jx, which is compared to x minus h whole square, where h is representing your horizontal translation. So the graph is going to move up around the horizontal axis or the x-axis because it is positive. Later, though it is not asked in the question, but I hope you remember, because h is positive, the graph is going to move on the right side of the x-axis. So that's about this question on transformation. Okay, this is another very, very important question on transformation. We are doing this question from the same lesson. And before we go further, I would like you to recall how we are going to get the various transformations that we need from the parent function. So we'll compare this fx with the standard form, which represents a multiplied with b to the power x minus h plus k. So here there are three variables you see, a, h and k. So I'm going to just clear this up a little bit. So a here is representing your factor of dilation. H is representing your factor of horizontal translation. K is representing your vertical translation. You also have another factor which represents your sign. If it is negative, you are going to reflect. But in this question, you don't see a negative outside. So I'm going to skip that part. We are just going to look at these three values of A, H and K. So let's compare. How much is A? So if you compare here, A is very clearly 3. What about value of H? You are comparing X minus 2 with X minus H. So how much is your H? Definitely it's positive. So it's going to be positive, means the horizontal translation will be by 2 units, and because we are talking about x-axis, it will take the right side, being positive. Next you compare your k. What is k? K here is again positive value, and k represents your vertical translation. So just remember, I'm going to write this again for you. For vertical, it is the vertical axis, so y-axis. So that means the transformation that is going to happen is 9 units up, and this is happening along y-axis, and horizontal is happening along x-axis. So these are some of the transformation which are happening in this question. We also have dilation happening. So for dilation, since the dilation is more than 1, the transformation that will happen here, I'm going to just change color and write specifically for dilation. We are done with horizontal and vertical. So for dilation, you are comparing with a multiplied with b to the power x. So if your absolute value of a is more than 1, which is the case here since a is 3, the graph of fx is stretched vertically away from the x-axis. So this is going to be the transformation. And I would want all my students to revise this lesson, which was on transformations, and there was a table of values and a flow chart mind map that I gave you. So that's going to help you for this part. Let's do one more last question on transformation before we close this video on module 8. Again, it is going to be on transformation. So you will have A, H, and K that you need to identify. So the question is multiple choice again. There are 4 options. Let's choose the correct one. So which function here represents a vertical compression, a reflection in the x-axis, a translation 3 units, down? So down is important here. So if it is down, it is going to be negative. And we are talking about the translation. Down means vertically, so we are talking about value of k. So if the translation is having down sign, means it will have negative value, so we are going to have k as -3. And if you are not able to recall that, then I'm writing the same equation which we wrote in the last slide, b times x minus h plus k. So now we just need to find h, k, and a here. Now the question clearly says that we are having a vertical compression. So if it is a vertical compression, I'm going to write here now, then our value of A should lie between 0 and 1. This is coming from the conditions of dilation where we did the vertical dilation of exponential function. So in this case, the graph of the function would be compressed by uh, vertically towards the x-axis. Okay, so you have to look at that value of a which is less than 1. That's important. Next is, so we are done with vertical compression, we are done with translation 3 units down. Now we are left with reflection. So now when the reflection is there, this reflection is clearly mentioned in the question, happening in the x-axis. That means there is going to be a negative sign for sure in this question coming up. So let's do the last part and then we'll get our answer from the options. So when the reflection is happening across the x-axis, I'm going to now write the last point. So it's given here, reflection in the x-axis. The condition that comes true here when reflection is happening is that the graph will have a negative sign. So you'll have something like negative fx. Outside the function, you'll get a negative sign, and this is happening when the reflection is across the x-axis. So now let's combine all these points. So we know that the function should have a negative sign. We know the function should have a value of a which is more than 0 but less than 1. We know k is going to be -3. So let's now get our answer. And plus k means it should have in the end, maybe I'll put a negative sign here, to your a multiplied with b to the power x minus h, and because k is -3, so function should resemble something like this. So it's an approximate value, and -3 is separate. So definitely this option is ruled out. This option is ruled out. So answer will be one of B and C. Let's go further deep and see which one is holding true here. Now A needs to be multiplied to B to the power x minus h here. So that means your value of A has a restriction less than 1 and it has a negative sign. So this option has a negative sign, this option has a negative sign. But out of these two options, if you see, the value of A less than 1 is happening only in option C, and that's how y equal to -2/3 x square minus 3 is the correct option. If you ask me why this is not the correct answer, then my reason is because in this case 2/3 is inside the bracket and you are having square of it. So the value will exceed, it will not match the parent function. So the parent function that we have taken in this question is the standard function. I write it as fx, which is x square. So what transformation we did? We multiplied this x square with a first, which was 2 by 3. Then we did the reflection, and then we also moved the function down 3 units. So this is the parent function which got answer C after all these transformation. So with that, we finished the revision of some important questions from Module 8, Relations and Functions. I hope you found the video useful and you understood the criteria that we are going to use to solve some important problems. And all these methods help you for solving questions correctly in your coming exam. So with that, this is Ms. Ruchika signing off from today's video. See you in my next revision video. Until then, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel if you liked my videos. Bye students.